Hello, and I hope you're all doing very well. Your revision is coming along nicely. I know the exams are just around the corner. I think it's Tuesday and Friday of the next week, so I hope that everything's going well. I just wanted to do a short video about how to answer the 8 markers in paper 1. I think we've already talked about how to answer the 10 marker. I think we spent a significant amount of time talking about how to do you go ahead and do the 10 marker. But sometimes 8 markers, they get a little bit overlooked. So I just wanted to discuss these ones just as a way of reminding people just before they go and sit their exam next week. Your 8 markers come in 2 types. I think the first type I think the most common one at the beginning of the series when this syllabus started was just compare and contrast. And so compare this study, just give 2 similarities or 2 differences, or a similarity and a difference between study X and a study Y, or whatever study you want to pick, or whatever. They just changed the question a little bit as the years progressed. Lately, I've seen another variation, which is they ask you about the results of a study or something along those lines, and then they ask you to explain the implications of those results. I think those tend to be relatively easier. I think, in my opinion, there's better structure. I think sometimes when people are asked about similarities and differences between the studies, they get a little bit more nervous and then they struggle to answer it. But actually, it is not I wish if I was you, I would love it if I had a compare and contrast question, because really I'm just going to use the same evaluation points and issues and debates that I've come across throughout the year to answer my 10 markers, so the follow-up questions to this. That's my suggestion. What I suggest students all the time is just to base your similarities and differences on the evaluation points and issues and debates that you learn throughout the year to evaluate the core studies of the syllabus. So, for example, I'm sure you come across the grave, help to help you remember all the evaluation points that you could use in psychology. You have generalizability, reliability, applications, usefulness, validity, and ethics. So whenever you have to evaluate a study, you should write this down next to the study in order to help you, plan your 10 marker. But they're also useful for the 8 markers because obviously the easiest way, you spend so much time learning about how to evaluate a study that if you think about it, similarities and differences of the studies, you can use the evaluation points in order to help you to come up with valid comparison points and contrasting points between the study. You can also use the issues and debates. You have nature-nurture. That's a common one. You can say, look, this study supports nature, this other supports nurture side of the debate, and then you explain why. Or you can say, look, both studies support the nature side of the debate, and the same thing for all of them for the rest of the issues and debates. So just in case you haven't come across them, I just made a little, I found these ones in the internet, so they are publicly available for you. You can find your own pictures in Google Images. Just found these 2. I thought they were quite concise and good. So if you take a minute, you can pause this and take a minute and read them before you take a look at the example that I wrote. Okay, so one thing that I would suggest, another thing that I would suggest you do is to remember to structure your paragraphs in a piece structure. I think as you'll see now, especially if you are not a great writer, it helps you give some sort of a structure and clarity to your paragraphs. I think sometimes students tend to waffle a lot and they don't know where to stop or what to write in what sections of the paragraph. So I think a piece structure or a peel structure can give you a little bit of structure and clarity and help you gain those marks from the examiners when they're reading your paragraph. So I picked this question, which is explain one similarity and one difference between Schachter and Singer, and one another core study from the biological approach. So if you take a look at this question, obviously there one similarity and one difference. That's a key part of the question. So make sure that you are doing what they're asking you to do in the question. Don't go and write two similarities or two differences, because that's not what they want. Sometimes they will want that. Sometimes they will want two similarities and two differences. So make sure that you highlight that bit when you're reading the question, so you don't make a common mistake that people do, or one of the most common mistakes that people do is like they don't read the question properly. And then the other key part of this question is that it has to be from the biological approach. That might change again in the future, or in different questions that changes. Sometimes it might be Schachter and Singer and Milgram, or it might be or any other study from the syllabus. So make sure that you read the question and that you are tackling the two things that they want you to do in this question. Okay, so compare the right studies and provide the correct material. Okay, so these ones are the ones that I've seen before, and again, you get 4 marks for each of the paragraphs. Okay, so the model paragraph, as you can see here, is I did this one thinking in a piece structure, just to give you a bit of a head start on how to write them. So I started with my point. So one similarity between the Schachter and Singer and the Dement and Clayman study is that both have high levels of validity. So I'm trying to tackle in my point, I'm trying to tackle what they want me to do. So I'm going to talk about a similarity, which is what they want, at least one part of the question. That's what they want me to talk about. They want me to compare this Schachter and Singer. They want me to talk the Schachter and Singer thing study and another of the biological studies. So, and that was Dement and Clayman. So I think Dement and Clayman is from the biological approach. So I'm tackling what they want me to talk about. And then I picked a similarity, a credit-worthy similarity between the two studies, which is validity. Both of them are lab experiments. Both of them have high levels of controls and standardization, and they minimize a lot of potential problems by exercising a lot of experimental control. So I think we need, in the sake of being succinct and quite intelligent with our time, I don't think I need to go further than that with my point. Then I follow up with an explanation. So obviously that's my point, but I need to explain what I mean by that. So in a lab experiment, researchers can exert higher levels of control in order to avoid the confounding effects of extraneous variables. So again, I need to be quite efficient with my time. I don't need to go any further than that. And I think that would be a sort of a clear, credit-worthy explanation to the reader that this is what I understand by validity. And I think they're both lab experiments, and they both have this sort of, strength to their methods. And then I follow this by some evidence. So, for example, one control is in the Schachter and Singer study is that they changed the name of adrenaline to a made-up drug to avoid the word adrenaline affecting the participants' behavior. If you tell people I'm going to inject you with adrenaline, that's obviously going to have some sort of psychological effect, and people might end up displaying symptoms or characteristics that are very similar to what you would expect when people get actually injected with adrenaline. So to avoid that, they changed it to Suproxin. But again, I don't think I need to go into much more detail on that to explain my control. And then I so I'm saying that both studies are going to have control. So the next part of my paragraph is going to look in the Dement and Clayman study. They made sure that the bell used to wake up was loud enough to wake up all participants in the same way. So again, that was a control from this study. So both of these controls increase the confidence of researchers, or the confidence researchers had in their independent variables affect independent variables, and that results were not affected by another confounding variable. Again, very succinct. If you have more time, obviously you can flesh this out in a little bit more detail, but I think this would be good enough for a paragraph, and then you can move on to another similarity, if that's a question, or another difference in this case. Okay, so I'm going to leave that paragraph there for you to take a look at. You can pause it here and then read it again, maybe fix it if you want to, or you can add a little bit more detail if you think you have the time. One good thing, I think I mentioned this before, I don't know if I mentioned it before, is that obviously this is an 8 marker and you only need 2 paragraphs. So if you think about it, in the 10 marker, you need to write 4 paragraphs and you actually get 10 marks. So the 8 marks are a nice sort of gift from the exam, where you have to write 2 paragraphs and you get 8 marks compared to the other one. So if you write 2 paragraphs, half the work that you do in the 10 marker, and then you get a nice 8 marks. And then hopefully you'll be on your way to get 41 marks out of 60. If you maximize your marks in the 10 marker and the 8 marker, then you can pick up the rest of the marks in the 2 markers and the shorter questions at the beginning of the exam. So try a similar structure paragraph for a difference for this specific example, but be mindful that in the exam you may be asked for 2 similarities or 2 differences. So be prepared and visualize potential questions and answers. I think visualization exercises, with so little time before the exam, are quite useful. Okay, so I hope that helps, and see you guys soon.